All right, welcome to We Won't Finish This Podcast. It's a writer's room podcast where we pitch movies to each other that we'll never make. Spaceman.
I'm Savage.
And I'm Zeebz.
All right, Zeebz is up tonight. He is going to pitch us a movie that we have no idea what's going on here. It's fresh. That's kind of our thing. So, Zeebz, why don't you go ahead and set the stage for us?
Well, I'm doing something a little different this time. This is our first based on a true story movie.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Go on.
I think you're going to like it.
All right.
Not really much controversial about it.
Okay, I was going to say, well, do we have to apologize to the families?
Names have been changed.
Well, depending if the riffing gets out of control.
Okay,
maybe,
well,
but,
fair enough.
I'll just tell you, this movie is based on the strange but true story of Old Ulysses, Kansas,
Okay,
a
never
frontier
heard of
town that quite literally came and went around the turn of the 20th century. At the heart of it all, a main character who should be much more famous than he is.
Okay.
it. Okay, so it's just like a
I'm not
cowboy
familiar
adventure?
with this story.
You're not what?
I'm not familiar with the place.
Well,
or
that's
anything.
that's kind of why I'm telling it, is because I feel like this is something that should be told. So to give you guys some resources during this, you want to pass that down, I've gotten you a list of some frontier slang, if you want to use it throughout our presentation.
Well, first one I see is barking at a knot. So
I'll fix your wagon, chucklehead.
Exactly. So this is
Doggone it.
1885, okay?
All right.
Old Ulysses, Kansas. The film opens with a wide shot of an empty prairie.
Sorry, it's 2 pages.
Oh, I hooked you up.
All right.
So the film opens with a wide shot of an empty prairie, tall grass, buzzards, not much else. Text appears on the screen reading Kansas, 1885.
Okay.
A rattling... Huh?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Like,
Oh,
I played Red Dead Redemption recently,
Yes.
so...
Oh,
like,
RDR2.
Oh, yeah, I'm
A
open source material.
rattling stagecoach pulls into frame, being driven by 2 well-dressed men. One steps out and plants a sign reading, Future Site of Ulysses, population pending.
Okay. So these are just
He
the
says,
founders,
I'm plumb
obviously,
wore out from
yeah.
our traveling.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Like,
Don't
I
get
bet-
too lost in the slang.
I'm sure when they rolled up, they said it's hotter than a billy goat and a pepper patch.
It probably was. Indeed, it was. Okay, don't get lost in that. We got it. We
all
do
right,
it.
fine.
But
So we have the founders rolling
Don't
up.
tempt
to be
me with a
determined.
good time.
well, the 2 men begin arguing about whether they're in the right spot.
Or we got a ski-daddle.
One of them is clearly holding his map upside down. During the discussion, a man with a square jaw and thick mustache chewing prairie wheat emerges from the brush as if he were born there. He adjusts his wide-brimmed hat and walks towards the men. They still don't see him. They're still arguing. What if no one wants to move here? One man asks while slapping a bug on his neck. Then we sell them the idea of moving, says the man from the brush. Startled, the men turn around to see him. Jumping Jehoshaphat, I nearly lost my britches.
You two look like you've been herding cats through a hailstorm.
He's stirring up a fuss.
So, okay, at least try. So, says, what are you well-dressed gentlemen doing all the way out here? Accidentally lose the trail? They say, we're surveyors from the Ulysses Town Company. We're staking our claim and have big plans for a town here.
I'm an oil man.
Roads, theater, hotels, maybe even a courthouse. So these are like investors,
Yeah.
essentially. They're the surveyors. They're coming to...
Yeah, I don't remember
Some
how you described them now,
hornswogglers.
but I'm picturing fat oil tycoon-looking guys.
That
now.
works. They're just
Okay.
well-dressed guys on a stagecoach.
Okay. Can they be fat, I guess?
Of course.
All right,
The
fine.
monorail
That's how I
guy
pictured
from
it.
the
Fat cats
Otherwise.
even. So this is the brush man responding. He says, well, now, that's finer than frog hair split 4 ways. This place could shine like a silver dollar in a spittoon. I can smell the property values from here. I say we start with Main Street, a saloon and a jail, and make sure I own all 3. Isn't this a dry county? That's what the jail's for, Brushman says as he takes a swig from a bottle of whiskey. Right. The surveyors try to begin marking their lines, but clearly don't know what they're doing. The map is still being held upside down. Brushman quickly points out that the map's upside down and that they're mistaken about which way is south.
You look nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Yeah, this one I read, I thought it was a fart joke at first, but
All right, the frontier slang was
got
a
more
mistake.
wind
You're
than a
not taking
Kansas
this back from me.
outhouse in January. I thought that was a fart joke.
Isn't it?
It's just full of hot air. Well, I mean, so I guess
Doggone it.
halfway.
Okay, well, giving you the frontier slang was a mistake, clearly.
It was. Now I'm going to keep using it.
So he points out that their map's upside down and that they're mistaken on which way is south. He says, "Gentlemen, I may not be a licensed surveyor, but I've watched 2 of them work, and I've corrected them both.
You reckon?
Let me map this out proper. We'll put the saloon where the sun hits it best, the jail close by, and the library where the wind won't offend the bank."
Well, hell bent for leather.
We're going to get these all in the first 20 minutes.
There's 60 of them.
Well, we're at our rate. We'll be done soon.
Without even a chance to respond, Brushman begins mapping out the town using a broken compass and his half-drank bottle of whiskey. The 2 men watch and wonder as he works with impressive efficiency and the swagger of a cowboy. "What's your name, fella?"
Belly washer.
What does that one mean?
A big rainstorm.
Oh, okay.
This is a true story.
He's a real hornswoggler.
It is. We're taking it seriously.
"What's your name, fella?" The Brushman lifts his hat and wipes the sweat from his brow. "Name's George Washington Earp." Earp? Like Wyatt Earp? That's
No.
my cousin.
Never heard of him.
I taught him how to hold a gun.
Unrelated.
Backwards, of course, so no one would get hurt.
Except me.
So
that's
this
why
is,
that's why I got one arm.
well, so the men are awestruck, and they step aside to chat privately. One of them is very excited that George could be the front man of this new town. The legendary status of the Earps could be enough to get... Do you guys know who Wyatt Earp is?
Yes. Yeah.
He's
No,
like
we're-
a
we're
famous
aware of
sheriff
Wyatt.
from
Tombstone.
the Western.
Yeah.
Gunfight at the OK Corral.
Actually, yeah, I watched
Yeah.
a documentary on that recently.
5
What?
Goes West.
Did they mention George Washington Earp?
No, they didn't.
That's why I'm doing this story. Because you're going to love this.
So-
This is a
Alright.
great story.
Okay, I like it.
So the
That's
men...
really his cousin?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it actually is his cousin.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay. I thought you were bullshitting
So,
me.
I mean,
Okay.
obviously he didn't emerge from brush.
It's a gut full of
but
bear cat.
I have more info.
Dude,
but-
is it weird that that's the part I believed?
no.
Okay.
It's not weird.
All right.
So the men are awestruck and they step aside to chat privately. One of them is very excited that George could be the front man in this new town. The legendary...
Thunderation.
He's blowed up bigger than a bullfrog.
This is going to be 6 hours long, this podcast. The legendary status of the Earps could be enough to get people's interest in moving in here. You really believe him? Every third fellow west of Wichita claims he's kin to Wyatt Earp. He's got a... God damn it. You really believe him? Every third fellow west of Wichita claims he's kin to Wyatt Earp. He got a badge or just the mustache?
He was healed.
It doesn't matter if it's true.
carrying
We've
it
got
on.
someone willing to play the part and sell this town for us. He's got the name. That's like printing flyers with thunder on them.
Blow it up bigger than a bullfrog.
Thunderation.
What makes you think he'll do it? He just mapped it all for us. Plus, I think he really wants a saloon. The men turn back towards George with big smiles. Mr. Earp, George, we've conferred. Now, we can't pay much, and your handwriting looks like a calf stomped on it. And we can't promise a big saloon right on Main Street, but we would like to... Before the man can finish, George grabs him with a firm handshake and says, "You had me a big saloon on Main Street."
As wild as a peach in an orchard, boy.
I'm never helping you guys with resources again. Run your town.
That goddamn flies.
Hell, I'll run it, stamp it, and sell plots by sundown. And as for traffic, don't you fret. I'll shout so loud the whole Santa Fe Trail will turn west and park right here. George turns towards the sun and tips his hat. By the time I'm done, even the buffalo will be asking for an address. So that's the first opening scene.
Time
You
to
guys-
take to
that
the
dog
tall
won't hunt?
timber and skedaddle.
So do you have any thoughts, or are you just going to read the paper I gave you?
I'm loving the paper.
I'm with it so far.
You guys are both clearly
I'm-
loving the paper.
So Daniel Day-Lewis is trying to buy this town, and now you're saying that.
Well, no, nobody's buying the town. This is
Yeah, they
they're
just showed up
just
and it's
staking
theirs.
their claim, and it's investors. They're actually from the Boston and New York areas mostly.
Okay, gotcha.
But that's who's put together this fund, and then the surveyors showed up. George shows them what's what, and they like his swagger and his famous name, and they go, "This guy's going to get people to move to this town for us."
You
If
could
we-
say he was full of beans and vinegar.
you could.
Could say
He
that.
was. So, any thoughts?
That fucking fly.
Just gonna.
Yeah. What's
So it's just gonna be the fly in frontier slang, huh? That's all we're gonna do. I put a lot of work into this.
what's the name of the
You're
actor?
gonna grab me in the second act, I promise.
What's the guy who played Willy Wonka?
Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder. He should be Wyatt Earp.
Well, he's dead.
So-
Wyatt Earp.
So,
Well, we're not actually making this movie either, so just picture it in your head.
okay. All right.
I get that reminds me of the time that someone was talking about casting the Power Rangers movie, and I said for bulk they need to get the ghost of Chris Farley.
Oh, he would be great. Yeah,
David
right.
Spade would could
Yeah.
even pull off a skull.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I thought it was pretty good.
Well, we're way off track. So
Yeah, we're
it's like
we gotta
herding
not.
cats through a hailstorm.
we can't-
it is really like herding cats
Well-
through a hailstorm.
Well, don't squat with your spurs on.
Don't pee on my boots and tell me it's raining.
So
Is that a gully washer?
no thoughts. George sets out to the Santa Fe Trail to sell this idea of a new town to anyone he can. He would approach pioneer families seeking land, merchant traders with promises of a bustling city full of commerce, and speculators telling them that plot prices go up every time a wagon wheel squeaks through town. We're right off the trail, so everyone you've seen out here will be walking right by Ulysses. Invest now and thank me later.
Johnson Johnson is right.
Is that a vaccine promotion?
Was it Blazing
What was that
Saddles?
one?
Blazing Saddles.
Oh yeah, I
Oh.
actually.
All their last names are
Oh,
Johnson.
okay.
Well, they're all
Oh, yeah.
okay. No, I did. It's
I was
been
like, is
so
that on
long
my
since I've
sheet I
seen
gave
it.
you?
Gene Wilder was a Blazing Saddles reference. as
Yeah,
well.
that I remember.
You're right. I forgot about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been so
That's
long.
the
man.
only Western knowledge I have.
Well, I've got info to go along with this.
Old
so
Mel Brooks
for
movie.
example,
That was Mel Brooks. Okay, I couldn't remember.
For example, the Santa Fe Trail was a major trade route between Missouri and Santa Fe, New Mexico from the 1820s until the late 1800s, and it passed through what would become Ulysses. And towns along the trail, they thrive on commerce from the wagon traffic.
Hey, Savage, you know
Sure,
what this
sure.
is? It's a lore break.
Yeah, I thought that's what he was handing us was going to be this backstory.
In 1886, Ulysses had 1,500 residents, a post office, an opera house, a large hotel, several other businesses, and 6 saloons.
It's a fun
Six
fact.
saloons.
You got to remember, this is a dry state.
Yeah, I did not remember that. So that's
Because
pretty
you
good.
talked over it with all the frontier slang.
Well, it's let's see here. Sorry, that boy's a few biscuits shy of a chuck wagon.
Yup.
So the chuck wagon was an important wagon on the frontier. That's where they kept all the meat.
Oh, the chuck?
The ground chuck, the air chuck.
So George is sitting in a saloon with his feet up on a barrel, sipping coffee from a mug that reads "World's Best Sheriff." There are documents strewn everywhere, and behind him the wall is cluttered with mismatched signs. A man walks in. "Where's the land office?" He goes, "Well, you're standing in it. I'm the land commissioner." He goes, "This is a saloon." He goes, "Son, in Ulysses, if it's got a roof and a table, it's a government building. Now, what kind of business we doing? Land claim, marriage license, postal dispute, public dual permit?" Another man walks in. "I'm looking for the county clerk's office." "Well, you found it. Third stool from the left is where we do clerking." "Well, I also need to register a mule for hauling contracts." George grabs a quill out of a whiskey glass and slaps a piece of paper down on the table. "There, official registration form. Mule's name? Hector. Approved. Congratulations. Hector's now licensed in freight, crowd control, and minor religious gatherings."
Was Hector
He's
the real
riding
name-
high
real
and
name of the
shooting
donkey?
low.
I didn't hear either.
I didn't
of you.
catch it.
Is that the donkey's real name, or are we protecting it?
It can be his real name.
Okay.
That'll do, donkey.
Someone speaks up from the bar. Is there a courthouse in this town?" George leans back, kicks open a broom closet door behind the bar. Inside is one folding chair and a picture of Abraham Lincoln. He goes, "There is now."
Any house can be a courthouse.
That's crazy
You
as a
just gotta
soup
have
sandwich.
George raises his glass. A man urgently enters the saloon and goes right to George. He shows him a newspaper explaining that Grant County has just been established, and Ulysses is eligible to run for county seat. Their competition would be a town called Tilden. County seat, you say? Oh, you can bet your britches we're going to get that. And I'm not just talking like a rooster. The man
Fuck
asks.
Tilden.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't like this.
That's what he should have just said.
Tilden.
Fuck Tilden instead of not talking like that. The man asks where the barber is, and George responds, "Oh, that's me," as he pulls out his shears. So you see the running gag there.
This guy does.
He just
everything.
sits in a
He
bar
just
and
did
does
everything.
everything for this town.
One-stop shop.
Just probably
So-
getting hammered all day.
Oh yeah.
Just like, oh, you need a dentist. Well, I got
I've made his
suppliers.
drink coffee whiskey. I have nothing to base that on. But
Tougher
he gets a
than it.
lot done, but he also acts very
It's a
drunkardly.
functional drunk. Like, that's fine.
Incredibly functional.
Yeah, like,
Because honestly, I mean, he wears many hats.
Multitasking.
And most of them are wide brimmed.
Yeah, he's quite entrepreneurial.
Yeah. So I just want to say, this is another lore break. Securing a county seat was a pivotal goal for emerging towns. It promised economic prosperity, political influence, and long-term survival. Towns would host courthouse and other government buildings, often leading to construction of bridges, schools, roads, and railroads. So by becoming the county seat, it was like, oh, we're a big deal now.
Yeah.
You know. The presence of government institutions would bring in lawyers, officials, citizens, which stimulated hotels, restaurants, shops, etc. So it was going to bring a bunch of workers in and stuff, you know. And so it was a really big deal. It was going to make us all a lot of money if we get this election our way.
Hotter than a billy goat and a pepper patch.
We already did that one.
I wonder if they were tied in a banjo string.
Ulysses was officially organized in June.
Does it bother anyone else that you're not calling it Ulysses? Isn't it?
I don't know how to say it.
I think of Ulysses S. Grant.
That's what it's named after.
That's what I'm. Okay, well then it's Ulysses.
Ulysses. Ulysses.
Yeah, Ulysses. I mean, that's how I've always pronounced it.
I can't believe you let me get this far.
That's like the name of it.
Well, how often are you pronouncing it?
Never.
I mean, he's on the 50. So, I mean, anytime I see a 50.
You say his name every time you see a 50.
No. You got me on that. But, I mean, isn't his name, like, right on there? I mean,
his face is on there.
I think their names are
there. They put their names on there?
Yeah. I think so.
But I haven't said this out loud since I began this.
Okay, well, that's fair. You know,
can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Ulysses.
I was wild as a peach orchard boar there.
Ulysses was officially organized in June 1888. 2,000 residents, 4 hotels, 12 restaurants, a bank, 6 gambling houses, a large schoolhouse, a church, a newspaper office, an opera house, and 12 saloons. Is
no
where
brothels.
We're at now.
All right.
That's kind of what I'm expecting next.
What?
No brothels.
Well, I'm sure there.
Let's be.
Okay, this just wasn't declared.
Just didn't make the history books.
I see.
Kansas was still a dry state at the time.
She could talk the bark off a
so
tree.
At this point, it's very clear this town is just.
They don't give a fuck.
They're ran by cowboys.
Yeah.
Like literally, quite literally. So due to population numbers, the governor made his proclamation and just granted the temporary seat to Ulysses. And Tilden's saw this as favoritism and tensions grew.
Man, fuck Tilden. Like,
well, yeah. Well, that's exactly how everyone feels and where we're at. So anyway, so now the tensions are high. This is a big deal. We got 2 opposing counties.
Yep.
So George knew that they couldn't lose this race, so he made sure to do everything in his power to secure a victory, including bringing in professional voters and boarded them for the requisite 30 days before the election, and then would give them each $10 when they had voted.
that was a lot of money back
It
then.
really was.
Yeah, I mean, you could buy a house.
It was also alleged
What was
that
what's the year that we're talking about right
1888.
Yeah.
now? 1888.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So it was also alleged that professional toughs were hired to intimidate Tilden voters.
Oh, that was generational wealth.
Professional toughs.
You ain't voting today.
Yes.
Turn around. Get out of here.
So George was very nervous about the election, so he hired famed gunfighters like Bat Masterson, Luke Short, and Bill Wells.
that Bat Masterson's gut full of bear cat.
When does Jack Hardball show up?
These are all real names.
I know they are.
yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I believe
We're being
you.
so
extremely disrespectful. To
He
the-
brought them in to protect the security of the ballot. They sat across the street from the ballot box under the awning of the saloon getting drunk and playing cards. This is a real thing that
for
happened.
30
by the way.
days, right?
No, just the day of the election.
Oh, okay.
Just to make sure nobody stole the box. Because the way I think, I tried to look into it, I think Tilden and Ulysses had their own ballot box. So there's
Yeah, I'd
essentially
imagine
who
so.
just has the most votes.
Yeah.
You know, like whoever's box has the most wins. So I think the only thing you could mess with it would be like stealing votes out or even stealing the whole box. You know, so anyways, you got these gunmen to sit across the street and get drunk and play cards, keeping a close eye to make sure there was no funny business. The camera pans a long line of voters waiting to vote, including a donkey with a mustache.
Hector.
That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
all right.
I was thinking it would be like they're clearly just rigging this, you know, to do what they can. So this is a scene where obviously, I'll give you the spoiler on this scene is nothing happens with the ballot box, but this is a documented event that he hired these very famous gunmen,
Hired some cowboys
to sit across the street, and they just got drunk and nothing happened. So I'm thinking that it's just them like ready to jump, but nothing's happening, and they're just like getting drunker and drunker. So you smell that? Asked George. Gunpowder? No. Democracy.
No, chucklehead.
It's coming. I can feel it in my trigger finger. A frail old woman with a pie tin walks slowly towards the ballot box. The gunmen shift in their seats. Jesus. The gunmen shift in their seats, putting a hand on their weapons and squinting suspiciously. Could be a decoy. Pie's too perfect. She drops in her vote, curtsies the clerk, and shuffles away. Well, that was uneventful. More examples of the gunmen being suspicious of nothing.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like I said, I played Red Dead Redemption recently, so I guess I got more of the serious in mind right now. But
that's fine. This could be a very tense scene.
Put the ballot box down, boy Jimbo.
I just need a thought. Something.
Yes. I mean, sorry, I don't. My Western knowledge is like limited to video games and the one Wyatt Earp documentary I saw. So
the fact that you saw the documentary should make you killing it right now.
I don't know what to tell you. I know that like he was a philanderer. I'm sorry. That's all I got. Okay. And the fight at the OK Corral was actually very short.
Yeah, like 3 people died. It was it wasn't even a big deal.
I know, like 3 people. It was over in like 35 seconds. Like that was it.
But back then, that was like dime store novels, newspapers, like shit got around.
Yeah, it was romanticized even.
Yes.
Crazy.
So that's where the cousin could obviously get 2,000 people to fill his town.
Yeah.
And he's just some drunk, silly guy, essentially.
Yeah. I'm all on board for some Wild West, like, bribery.
And his legend says he was as free with his gun as Wyatt Earp. Like that's the legend says that, he was. I didn't write it so much because I didn't want to make up him holding people up or what I mean, things like that. Like I didn't know that.
He would be doing like tricks. He would like throw a bottle in the air and shoot it out of the midair.
Okay. So I just looked into
spinning it around.
Yeah,
I just looked into what really happened, and then kind of I thought it was so absurd. Like this, I'll tell you how I came across all this. It was literally a Reddit Today I Learned post about kind of what happens with this town. I don't want to spoil it just yet because it is ridiculous. And then when I started
tougher than a $2 steak.
When I started digging into it, I was just like, damn, there's a lot going on here. This is a whole movie. Yeah. And to quote Charlie Day, it was like, there's a lot of jelly in these donuts.
I haven't actually heard that one.
Well, slicker than a greased weasel in a butter churn.
Okay.
I can't believe you made this whole list.
Full of armpits. Like, what is that one?
Oh, ugly. Just not a looker.
Than a lard bucket full of armpits.
This was a mistake.
Like, it's not a looker. I think I got it.
You guys ready? You guys ready to go?
I'll have another one.
So they're waiting across the street watching the ballot box. Obviously, only one suspicious thing happens. It's an old lady because it's all we got.
She looks crooked as a dog's hind leg.
She's so crooked she could hide behind a corkscrew.
And he said she just like dropped a pie in there.
She just voted.
Oh,
she just nothing
submitted
happened.
One vote.
Nobody's paying attention to any of this. You're just neck deep in frontier slang.
Sorry, I thought she dropped a pie in the ballot box. They're like, well, that was weird.
Nope. Not what
Chaps
happened.
deep and
time passes. More votes trickle in. No fights. No spies. No bandits. The gunmen grow restless. Hey, wait. Did we even vote?
Yeah. It's either we vote or someone's got to die.
So that's pretty much the punchline in the scene there. The rhythm of this whole episode is terrible. I will say, this whole thing is...
You shouldn't have given us the notes.
No,
it was a terrible
thought
mistake.
It was
Rookie
going
mistake.
to help. So, on October 16th, 1888, Ulysses, Kansas is elected permanent seat of Grant County. It quickly was noticed that a suspiciously large number of voters showed up for the election, more than the actual population of the entire county. Tilden sued, and it ended up in the Kansas Supreme Court. In the courtroom is Alvin Campbell, a lawyer from Tilden and a journalist from the Ulysses Tribune. He introduced facts to show that the city council of Ulysses had bonded the people to a whopping $36,000 to buy votes.
That's
back
like
in 1888.
several billion now.
Wow.
Yes. Claiming that the total votes paid for were 388. The evidence had been previously printed in the Ulysses Tribune. The jury is 4 tired ranch workers and a goat, and nobody told the goat to leave. George is staring down Alvin the entire time. When Alvin finishes speaking, the judge just looks at George. Is this true, George? These are very serious accusations.
No, ma'am.
He says, it's true, but I'd like to think all those voters would have voted Ulysses over Tilden anyway. You know, if they lived here.
Yeah, Tilden sucks.
It's really just circumstantial. So the judge looks annoyed at the response. He says, well, that pretty much wraps this all up. You clearly cheated, so this decision will obviously have to be changed. Before we finish up, Tilden, you got a response? A sheepish Tilden representative rises, bowler hat in hand, sweating profusely.
Don't squat with your spurs on.
Says, yes.
Sorry, did you shit yourself?
Yes, Your Honor. We also may have brought in some outside help, fed them, paid them. A few were dead. One was a horse. Alvin Campbell, shocked, says, Scott?
What the fuck, Scott?
Yeah, basically. Why are you doing this?
Dude, come on.
The courtroom gasps, even the goat baas. The judge puts his head in his hands and gently sobs. I fucking hate this job. The judge looks at the bailiff, who shrugs. The goat eats a piece of paper labeled Exhibit C.
I'm seeing this more as like Cannibal the Musical now that we've gotten to this point.
You started listening.
Yeah, I've tuned in.
Yeah.
So we're more in Cannibal the Musical.
It was kind of
territory.
going on based on a true story and how silly I want to make it. I was kind of thinking of, like, I don't know if you've seen the Unfrosted movie, the Pop-Tart movie with Jerry Seinfeld.
I have not seen it. I've heard about it.
It's about a real thing,
Yeah.
the breakfast wars between
Right.
these two companies. But, I mean, it's very silly. The toaster strudel was alive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was, they took any liberty they wanted. That's what I was hoping to do here today. Instead, we just read a list of 60 slang
We've gone
phrases
way
from
off
the
track.
Frontier Times.
I think we got more.
Well, there's 60 total, so that's what we'll get to by the end. And we've already
Zeebz
said a
is
couple
madder
twice.
than a wet hen over here.
I'm getting madder than a wet hen. So I hereby declare this election officially messed up beyond legal salvation. But since Ulysses brought more warm bodies, living, dead, or otherwise, the county seat stays with Ulysses. So essentially what happened is this judge hit a point where he's like, okay, this was corrupt. You guys totally cheated and stole this election. But then he found out the other side
Yeah,
did it too.
but so did they.
Well, and just had to just go,
All right.
like, I don't have time
Fine.
for this.
Yeah, whatever.
You cheated better. It's yours.
Fair enough.
And
That's
then they
essentially
probably,
what happened.
Yeah, they rode away on their horses, you know,
Yeah.
and like shooting their guns in the air.
So the crowd is shocked. George just sips his whiskey and raises it as a cheers to Alvin Campbell. He was the whistleblower from Tilden who tried to expose all this. So Alvin leaves the courthouse sad and defeated when he is quickly grabbed and pulled into an alley by some professional toughs. They quickly gag and hog tie him and throw him into a wagon, which drives off speedily. Yeah! As they just take off, you know.
You know the guy's just ready up there with the web. Like, yeah!
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's now nighttime. They arrive in the middle of a dark, dusty plains. Alvin's gag is removed as one of the toughs begins heating tar over a fire.
This is getting serious.
Sure you know where this is going.
Yeah.
This is a real event as well.
Oh, jeez.
So I guess this is the cost of free speech this side of Wichita. You better watch it. You're talking like a man with a paper butt in a match factory. Well, I'll be hornswoggled.
If Dumb was dynamite, he couldn't blow his hat off.
This is fixing to go cattywampus real quick. A man stirs the tar. I think we're good to go, boys. Alvin is tarred, but not feathered. I will say historically, but I think for this movie he should be tarred.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
yeah, that's
yeah,
a
I'm picturing
classic.
It's much better.
Joe Pesci and
Exactly.
That's
So
Home Alone.
this really happened.
That's the Looney
This guy
Tunes
literally they got grabbed up by a mob and tarred for this, and was made to walk back 3 miles to town through a cactus field.
jeez.
It had to be the cactus.
So for
field.
this movie, I'm picturing a zoomed out view of a cactus field at night, and you just hear like, "Ow, ow," you know what I mean? And it's like that's the punchline,
Yeah.
essentially, of the scene.
just
Very
collapses
silly,
at the
but
end of it. And like,
This was apparently at the time a common tactic to silence people, was to tar them with
just tar them.
flaming hot tar to dump it on them.
Well, I'd shut
And
up.
Ah,
Deal with that.
that's terrible.
Yeah, essentially it shows. Well, basically, I think it's a way to just be like, we could have done anything to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's pretty much like, next time it'll be worse. You know, whatever.
We just happen to have a bunch of tar.
but apparently this was not that
It's the most
unusual.
easily affordable
Yeah,
substance.
we got a lot of tar. So they've won the
What
election
in tar
at this point.
nation?
They've got the county seat. They're promised things, a courthouse,
Uh-huh.
things like that. But the Santa Fe traffic begins slowing down. By the late 1880s, railroads were rapidly expanding across western Kansas, killing trail-based commerce. Ulysses also took on substantial debts, $36,000 from the county seat fight, $13,000 in bonds for a schoolhouse, and $8,000 for a courthouse. Ulysses is also experiencing a bad run of crop failure.
Oh boy, we're in a famine.
All at once, this is kind of going to shit. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's a phrase on those pages somewhere for that.
Oh, yeah.
A rattlesnake in a flour sack.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I think I gave little definitions.
You did. That's what I'm trying to find the right one here. And,
so,
yeah, sorry.
This is where the saloon is half lit.
Goner. Someone doomed or done for.
There we go.
The town's a real goner.
Thank you. The saloon is half lit, smoky, and crowded with frustrated townspeople. There's a map of Ulysses on the wall with a big red X through it. Tempers flare. Bonds are unpaid. The county seat is secure, but it came at a heavy cost. Because that was the big thing, is that they actually used taxpayer money for this. That was actually the scandal. Was
right.
At the end of the day, is Tilden, I don't think, used taxpayer money. I don't know.
Well, that was stupid. Tilden's dumb.
I know. They could have actually maybe won. So an elderly farmer slams his glass down. We're broke, boys. The taxes are killing us. Can't pay the bonds. Can't build. Can't grow.
We're busted flat in a skillet.
That dog won't hunt.
We should have sided with Tilden. At least their saloon has a floor. George is sitting at the end of the bar, absolutely hammered.
Time we took to the tall timber.
Well,
drunker than Cooter Brown.
I'm just trying my best to make sure this line is not going to get stepped on. It's a big one.
All right, well, let's hear it.
George is sitting at the end of the bar, absolutely hammered. What if we just moved it? The room goes still.
Like the town?
Moved what, George? The town? A man says sarcastically. Yep. Pick her up, set her down a few miles yonder. Fresh land, clean books, new start. Leave the debts right here with the wind and the weeds.
It's so dumb that it's genius.
That was old Ulysses. This is new Ulysses.
You mean carry the buildings? Hell, we built this place with 4 saws and a mule named Larry. Hector. Sorry, Hector. A mule grunts.
Credit where credit's due.
Seriously, I'm sorry, Hector. Point is, we can move it. Laughter erupts. Drinks are spilled. Someone shouts, he's finally gone drunk mad. George, you ain't moving to town. That's something only tornadoes do.
Yeah, you're blowed up bigger than a bullfrog.
George stands, tips his hat, and walks to the door. He pauses before stepping out. Well, I'll be starting at sunrise. Whoever shows up gets a saloon.
You'd be drunker than Cooter Brown.
Are you even hearing what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am.
Cooter Brown was a legendary Southern drunk who stayed lit to avoid the Civil War.
Lore break.
Thanks for that quick, refreshing lore break. Well, I'll be starting at sunrise. Whoever shows up gets a saloon. He exits into the night. Everyone stares, and then the laughter resumes.
So they're just going to pick one of them up and give it to him. Like, you got to carry it out of here, though.
What?
The saloon.
It's built like a brick outhouse.
I mean, you heard how big this town was, right? I mean, they have 2,000 residents. They have a 12-room hotel.
12? I mean, that's impressive.
For back then, that's very impressive.
Yeah,
especially if you're going to pick it up and move it.
Well, like Red Dead had like 3.
Well, exactly.
Where they just roll it on logs, or
they use skids and teams to load it up and pull them with oxen.
Okay.
Is how they pulled this off. But so he tells them, meet me at sunrise. I'm doing it. And they're all laughing in the saloon as he leaves. The sun peeks over the horizon. The prairie is quiet, except for a single wagon. George Washington Earp stands alone.
Forgot about him.
He's the guy.
He's the only character.
He's the only character, other than the guy who got tarred.
Oh, yeah.
You have not been paying attention. I hope you listen to this later and go, wow, that actually would have been good.
So we'll follow up with a sequel.
There is no sequel.
It'll be
It's based
my love
on a
letter.
true story.
Well, we'll make one.
I'm going to have to electric boogaloo this thing.
Zeebz is hotter than a billy goat in a pepper
We
patch.
did that 3 times now. George Washington Earp stands alone, shirt off, hammer in one hand, jug of coffee whiskey in the other, and a freshly painted wooden sign. New Ulysses, county seat coming soon. Behind him sits a stack of planks and the busted door of the old saloon he's already hauled over. He hammers it into the dirt.
They really called it New Ulysses.
Oh, yeah.
This is still based on the true story.
This is all true.
That's hilarious.
I did a
thought that
lot
was
of work
joke.
on this.
I am enjoying it. It is very silly because it's a real story.
You would even enjoy the other parts you didn't hear.
I mean, I heard him.
You didn't. You said you forgot about the one character. He's been in every
that's true.
scene.
I hadn't heard about him in a while, all right? I'm sorry.
He's been in every scene, Spaceman. So he's obviously hammering the saloon back together, starting with the door.
Zeebz is colder than a banker's heart.
He's hotter than a billy goat in a pepper patch.
A few curious townsfolk appear on the hill, staring. Damn it, he's actually doing it. George waving his hammer. Bring a lunch and some rope. We're setting up City Hall next to the good dirt.
I mean, they were having
The
a famine.
trail is
I
wide
remember that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What?
The trail is actually wide enough that they could just like with skids and oxen move huge
I don't
buildings.
know that it physically went down a trail.
I mean, yeah, well, there was
But-
just jack
Just
shit
like
in
a
the
wide
area,
open
I'm imagining.
plain.
They just had-
Kansas is just super flat. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. But so yeah, he sees them and he goes, "Fuck, we're actually doing it."
Yeah, they just showed up and like, we live here now.
Yeah. So we cut to an open sign in a window being flipped to closed. The camera pans out to show the shop is actually on skids and starts being pulled away by oxen. There's a full montage with banjo music showing all the people working together to move the town. George using a whiskey bottle as a level. The montage ends with music swelling and a freeze frame on George toasting the sky with a coffee mug. Fade to black.
There we go. I was imagining the boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
and just them with just like pulling out like chariots.
Well, so they did it.
I feel like we could include a joke of like someone being left behind, like, no, wait for me. And they're just very slowly lurching forward with the oxen trail. And they're like, ah.
I know. I'm still finding I'm having trouble finding the balance. And like, is this more like slapstick Cannibal the musical, or are we get
It's very slapstick is what I was
Okay.
going for.
Okay, all right. So we got to work in more just like off the wall shit. Hector's good. I like Hector.
I feel like at the end of the day, that it would be very slapstick throughout, and there would be a couple tense scenes.
Yeah.
Like the tar scene would go longer, and actually probably like, let's make this real for a second, just because like, just imagine you're in the middle of nowhere with some cowboys that are gonna dump this on you.
Oh yeah, I thought they put him in butt first. I couldn't remember for sure.
I don't think they put him in. I think they just dump it on you.
Okay,
They
All
just
right.
dump hot tar over you.
That's pretty messed up.
It would hurt very badly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I'm sure for at least a week you're still peeling it off. Or like, So anyways, fade to black. They moved the town.
that would be your look for a while, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody would know. Somebody doesn't want you to talk about something.
Yeah, like seeing the hound walking around.
Yeah. So we fade in to the empty prairie from the first scene. A stagecoach comes into frame with the two same men as before.
Fuck?
Are you sure this is the place? I'm not really sure. That's the schoolhouse, right?
I thought it was
'Cause they
farther
left.
down.
They left the schoolhouse.
They left only the schoolhouse.
I mean, that's the least important in their
So-
probably their priority list.
On the steps of the schoolhouse sits a toothless man whittling. He doesn't look up, just keeps whittling with a grin on his face like he knows something they don't. Well now, look what the cat drug back. What happened here? Where is everyone? They took it all. Every plank, post, and privy. Left just the schoolhouse behind so fellas like you'd know what happened. The men glance at each other confused, and the old man picks up his whittling again and chuckles. Y'all got schooled. The man erupts into a thick cackle. A tumbleweed rolls by with a receipt attached to it.
With the
Credits.
receipt.
If dumb was dynamite, you couldn't blow your head off.
You might as well. I'll just let you finish reading these quick, and then we can discuss
Just rattle off the whole
some
list.
things. Just let you.
You
burn
just
it.
been dry gulched.
He's plumb wore out over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say I have an outro here. The schoolhouse remained until its demolition in 1920. Some of the bricks were repurposed for a garage in New Ulysses, and all that remains of Old Ulysses is a commemorative sign. There's actually nothing even written anywhere of what the sign actually says.
Oh, so it just was there.
You apparently have to go to see it.
Oh.
I'm telling you, George Washington Earp, you watched the whole documentary on Wyatt Earp.
Yeah.
He lived with him in Dodge City until they were like 18.
They didn't mention it.
He's only mentioned in the footnotes of other stories.
Well, that's
Like,
bullshit.
That's why this needs to be told, and you guys fucking hornswoggle the entire time. George Washington Earp, first cousin to Wyatt Earp of Dodge City and Tombstone fame in 1885. He was the town's first promoter, businessman, and like his cousins, its first peace officer. According to legend, he was just as free with his gun as Wyatt and his bunch. Born in Missouri, George was determined to live the cowboy life and headed to Dodge City at 18. Wyatt reportedly said Dodge City was too tough and sent him to Garden City instead. George persevered there, and it paid off. At just 21, he became the first postmaster. At 23, he was elected both mayor and constable.
He's got quite the resume.
He worked well into his 90s, retiring only at age 91. He died in 1960 at 96.
Well into his 90s.
Well,
It's kind of into
That's
his
old.
you're right.
For the 1800s, though, that's
I
old.
copy
That's
pasted a
very
lot of
old.
this. Well, he died in 1960 at 96 years old due to a stomach illness, probably cancer. The last of the fighting Earps. He didn't clean up Tombstone, but he cleaned up Ulysses with a broom in one hand and a 6-shooter in the other.
Not so much he just moved it to escape his debts.
He made the whole thing work.
Well, yeah, I give him full credit.
He
That's
got him
amazing.
the county seat and then moved.
I mean, that's pretty legit. Like picking up then moving the whole town. Like that is pretty good.
I wonder how far you would have to move it to technically, this is a whole new town.
They
now.
moved. Well, they just
Well,
had to
it's
get it
zoned.
off the land
Yeah, wherever
that
it's zoned at.
was. That's where the collateral is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they left the schoolhouse, I imagine, was probably part of the bond collateral where they probably had to leave it. Because if they're moving 12-room hotels, they probably would have taken the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
You know?
Houdini.
Fuck them kids.
But yeah, so basically, that's the long
Make the town
story short of
disappear.
it is a bunch of rich guys from Boston and New York said, we're going to just build a town and make a bunch of money and sell all the real estate. And then this guy strolled up, surveyed it for them. They'd never had a prior connection. And then took it from there and was
jumped
like,
out of the bushes. Like, hey, you need a surveyor?
well, literally took on all these roles and was like, yeah, I got this. I'll do all this for you. He was previously a postmaster. So
Okay.
he knew paperwork.
Yeah.
You know
He
what I
knew
mean?
where letters should go.
He was in the right place at the right
Well,
time.
so where Wyatt Earp was the cowboy gunslinger, they say that he was as free with whatever as he was, but there really isn't any documentation of it like Wyatt Earp. But then also moving the town, the stealing the election, and then finding out the other town did the same thing. That is the funniest thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
they sued him, and then it got to court, and they go, well, yeah, us too.
Sorry, we did it too.
And then the judge just goes, like, I don't have time for this.
okay,
It's
well,
you.
back to square one.
And then it was all just so poorly timed that the trail dried up, and then the town went away. Like, the railroads just didn't meet the town.
Yeah.
So they were, like, booming. They were on a great upward trajectory. And then just times change.
Yep.
Shit's done.
Yep.
So what I wanted to talk about kind of at the end is this is my first writing based on anything true other than things based on my own life.
Yeah.
I've written things based on my own experiences, or an experience inspires an idea or something. You see something that you decide to write about. This is the first time that I was like, oh, this has to be right. You know what I mean? Or I have to, get some things right, or, whatever. But what I realize is that if the story is good enough, which I do think this is a good enough story, there's a lot there. And the
Yeah.
characters are pretty funny. Like, it just George Washington Earp's pretty
Yeah,
good.
it needs a supporting
Yeah.
cast.
If Wyatt Earp was
Which I did-
Batman, George Washington Earp would be Robin.
See, I disagree.
He's
I
like
think
his
he would be
sidekick.
like Alfred.
Okay. He's the one who's like,
I was going for Jim Gordon.
he's like washing his laundry and like making him dinner and stuff.
No, or the guy who made all the tools. Okay, I'm telling you, this is a
Oh,
smart guy. I
okay.
made him slapstick and
Morgan
silly.
Freeman.
yeah, Morgan Freeman on the Nolan trilogy.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I think
Sure.
he's the more clever. Like you said, Wyatt Earp got famous for what, a 30-second gunfight?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting documentary. Like, it
Well,
was a good one.
imagine-
This guy's sillier.
If
I
this,
like him.
well, I made him much sillier than he probably was, but just based on the facts of like literally strolled into it, took on every role, made a town that had that many saloons and gambling in a dry state, and just was the cop.
Yeah.
or essentially, and then the moving the town is just like the cherry on the top.
Oh
of
yeah,
the whole story.
that's pretty
essentially.
good.
I think
You know.
this could definitely be like a side quest in Red Dead Redemption 2.
I still think it's bigger than that. I like I said, I'm almost shocked that this story hasn't been told. Like I
Yeah,
said,
never heard of it.
I saw this as a Reddit TIL, today I learned, basically like an entire town was moved to avoid its debts. And I was like, what? And I started reading into it. There's a little bit on Wikipedia. There's a couple mentions in a couple different books, and then there's a website like legendsofkansas.com, and that's like the only places to read about this.
Was like everybody moving towns or something, and that's why it just like wasn't special.
I've never heard of anybody doing such a thing ever.
Yeah,
But maybe it was just
Blazing
such a
Saddles.
thing. It was just like, oh, whatever.
Did Blazing Saddles move, or they
No,
just
they made
faked a town?
they made a fake town.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's been too long.
And this is obviously much before Blazing Saddles happened. If anything, Blazing Saddles may have
maybe
been
based
somehow
on
loosed on
this
or
game.
based on this loosely, and we're just unaware of that or inspired
Maybe.
by, you know. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of it's such a ridiculous idea, and then when you start getting in there more, like I said, there's a lot of jelly in these donuts.
Huh, interesting.
Where I was just like, this is a crazy story. How have I never heard of this guy? But I didn't even really know much about Wyatt Earp before I started digging into the story, because I was like, oh, he's cousins with Wyatt Earp. I've heard the name.
I do think it's funny that it's like, oh, yep, I'm the sheriff and the postmaster and the barber and the
all out of the
bartender
saloon.
and, yeah.
In a dry state.
I work the
You know?
brothel. I'm
And then
not interested.
the imagery too of when he's moving the place and he starts with the saloon door. It's just him just hammering a door into the dirt at like the next town, like he's just gonna do it himself if nobody helps.
Yeah, and they all just get drunk and help him.
But no, but the reality is this guy outlived, I'm sure out-earned all the famous Earps.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So he really traded fame for all the other good parts. You know what I mean? Lived into his 90s, which, like you said, for that time frame is pretty damn impressive. I would hope for that.
yeah.
You know,
He
for myself.
sounds like he was a gut
Yeah,
full of
from
bear
a while
cat.
back.
I've heard
He
that
was
3
happier
times
than a
this
cow in a
episode.
cornfield.
From you. You've said
That's the first time I've said
I
that.
don't think it is.
That's the first time.
I swear. You
You talk the bark off a tree.
Thank you. But
Yeah,
but
huge mistake giving us this
Yeah,
giant list. to go off of.
resources. You know, I wanted you to skim it and pick out some funny
I
ones.
thought it was going to
and
be
then
like
snipe
factoid
with them.
sheet or something.
No, no.
we leaned hard into
Oh
him.
yeah, no.
My thought was that you were going to skim it for some funnier ones and then sit back with it in your pocket to snipe with. And instead, you completely tuned out my story and just said hornswoggled basically for 40 minutes.
Well, shoot, I was born in a barn.
And I already cherry picked some of the better ones for my story. You didn't even hear them. You stepped over them with bullshit.
I heard him. I was getting into it, man.
Were we drinking your milkshake?
You drank my milkshake.
That's not Frontier Slang.
No.
I
That's-
drank your milkshake.
Yeah, it's There Will Be Blood. It's a good movie.
That's such a good movie.
It is a great movie.
It's a good movie.
But similar, that's what I'm picturing, is that this movie could be very funny
I'm an old.
because it is a silly story.
Yeah.
It's just a silly concept. And I was also thinking, like, what would those meetings be like? I obviously had the one at the bar where he presented it, but, like, let's say they hit the point where now they're in all this debt. What kind of schemes did they come up with
Yeah.
before they settled on moving the town? Like,
I
If
feel
it-
like that's so organic, though.
if it wasn't that time period and there was like automobiles, my thought would be you pick the guy who's like the town drunk or the worst driver, and everybody gets full coverage insurance on his car. like you know what I mean? Like it would be
Yeah.
something along those lines where the town picks like the village idiot and they're like, we all got insurance on him. He's going to burn that house down. He just opened a
Sounds-
restaurant. It's going to burn
Something's
down.
gonna happen.
I looked it up. You can take out an insurance policy on a vehicle you don't own.
Really?
Yes.
That seems doesn't seem like something that should happen.
Well, you don't know that you need to have it insured before you can register it?
Well,
You have to walk in with the paperwork.
that's true. That is
so,
true.
Must have the morals of a coyote
As long
and
as
the
you went
charm of
from-
a wet sock.
As long as you went to a different insurance company provider,
Huh.
I think you could probably get away with it. But I think once it came time to pay,
Yeah.
somehow they would figure
Somebody's
out
gonna
that
be suspicious.
you're not getting paid twice.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that. I was like, why not get full coverage like 8 times?
Yeah, and just
and
crash
just-
into someone.
Yeah, just drive off a bridge. This will pay off big time.
Get full coverage insurance on
8
someone else. Buy a
8-time
beer.
multiplier.
This is all hypothetical, of course.
Of course, like nobody should or would do this.
So what I was trying to say
This
is,
boy's a few biscuits shy of a chuck wagon.
say
You're trying to
chuck
fix
wagon?
your
A
wagon.
chuck wagon.
So, but what I was saying about the based on a true story stuff is, if the story is good enough, it really does write itself. because
Yeah.
every scene you go, oh, that'd be so ridiculous,
Yeah,
and you just
pick
start
those moments and then you build them.
and as you can see, there was a lot that I didn't write dialogue for. I just
Yeah.
kind of summarized, okay, and then this happened, because all the courtroom, all the voting stuff, you don't want to spend too much time on that, even though it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning. But so it's basically, if the story is good enough, it kind of writes itself, and it's very easy with the based on a true story stuff. You just spend most of your time making sure the facts are correct.
So you're just telling me that like the other based on a true stories are lazy?
Well, I think
Anybody
most
in
of them,
specific that you think is lazy?
if anything, I think they're not lazy enough because they take so many liberties. Like Argo, for example, was one that ended with them like escaping. Literally, they're driving off the runway in a
You
plane.
mean Fargo?
No, it's Argo with Ben Affleck.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's not worth it.
Oh, okay.
But it's just one of
Fargo's
those.
a good
They had to add the
That's
final.
also based on a true story.
Well, based on is what I'm saying is that it ended with them like the plane taking off on the runway and they're trying to get out of the country.
Yeah.
And all the police are right on their tail. It didn't happen that way. They quietly got on a flight and they flew out of the country.
See,
they did sneak and there was risk, but it wasn't the scene it was.
I like inspired by a true story because those are total bullshit.
Well, and that's
Oh yeah, that's like Cocaine Bear or whatever the one was.
yes, that's probably
Oh,
a
man,
great
I didn't watch
example
that
of.
one.
I didn't watch it,
I
but
didn't
I know.
watch it either.
Yeah, I know.
You
what
know,
meant.
you get
It was
it.
completely
I
over.
understand.
It's
Yeah.
completely over the top. Obviously, I don't know how, but we got through my notes way faster.
Inspired
so we're just
by
discussing this, but
true
it's-
events.
I like it.
It's a fair time.
We'll fill the hour.
Yeah.
We're at 52 minutes.
We're good.
Actually, we're not. We had a 5-minute intro.
Sure
mean,
is
we're-
hotter than a billy goat in a pepper patch.
I actually watched you
Man
read
away.
that off the paper again. You pointed at it with
It's
your
been
finger
very
and
hot
read it
lately.
as if you don't know it by now. You should just have that one memorized.
I mean, all right. Are we greenlighting it? Like,
Oh yeah, So what do you? If this the concept
yeah.
slapstick version,
Yeah.
silly like I said.
Yeah,
is
I
that
would-
a worth making movie? You think for
I
a
would
competent
want to put in
studio?
a lot of like the Charlie Chaplin style, like silent movie, like oh, I'm working on this house and now I'm spinning around with this giant ladder and like people have to duck out of the way just in time, like Three Stooges kind of shit.
This might be the first bit of input for this entire movie.
See, I like
Wait to the end.
Which I like.
I would like one character plays it very straight. Like they get Clint Eastwood.
Well, that's where
He's the judge.
I feel like there'd be a lot of moments with this George Earp character where he would be incredibly intimidating, but I didn't really write them. I saw it. I more focused on the sillier side. But like I said, I feel like this story, even as a comedy and even as a slapstick comedy, has room for maybe one or two tense scenes.
Yeah.
One being the tarring scene, like the talk before the guy gets tarred, and then it ends with the silly "ow, ow," you know, like through the zoomed out cactus patch. But there are, I think, a couple opportunities for like a Red Dead / Tarantino style like moment,
Standoff.
like something very bad's gonna happen, and you can feel the tension.
Yeah,
you know?
I wouldn't go that route. It would be all slapstick. When they dump like the tar on him, they're gonna scream like Marv from Home Alone. Like
He did kind of get feathered too.
he did. That's right. It was like the paint.
She got
and whatever-
birdseed and feathered.
Whatever goop that they.
No,
had
she
there.
tossed. Oh, there was a goop. I
Yeah.
remember her throwing the birdseed at him, but the goop clogged the gun.
That's right.
No, that was Harry. Yeah, that was Harry. Like it was in his pocket and he got the goop on him. He pulled it out. It was all slippery and
Yeah.
shit. He
They
couldn't
would've-
kill that kid.
They would have killed Kevin McAllister that day.
Like, look at us. Like, they would have killed Kevin McAllister. He would have been dead.
How many
Buzz,
episodes
your
did we talk about
girlfriend.
Home Alone?
quite
Comes
a
up
few.
lot, I feel.
Grew up on Home Alone. Like, it's very poignant. So, I would greenlight it, but only if it leaned very hard into the slapstick. Like,
Well, it would, but I feel like there could still be a couple of
like
moments.
the
where you're
tagline
just
would
like,
literally
oh,
be
damn.
like it is a true story. It's not based on or inspired by the true story.
Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a very tense movie, but is a comedy. I mean, I don't care
Yeah.
what you say.
Yeah.
If you watch that
Seen
movie, people are laughing out loud in the theaters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole
I didn't
I've
think
seen
it was
the
very
meme.
funny.
the whole final bit of it, they were. But I'm just saying, like it's they choreographed those scenes for humor.
Yeah.
Dark humor, but a humor
Well,
nonetheless.
yes.
But I think you could combine slapstick with all of a sudden, what was that movie? 4 Rooms? It was a Tarantino producing. It was a bellhop went to 4 hotel rooms, and it was 4.
Oh, you're thinking of Dunstan Checks In.
No.
It was Bubba Hotep.
No, but it's like the movie's divided into 4, and each room was directed by a different director.
Yeah.
And one of them was
you're talking
Tarantino.
about the one where Abraham Lincoln was a vampire slayer.
Nope. Again.
No, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
It's called 4 Rooms. It's Tarantino directed one of the rooms, and it was a very tense room, and the other 3 were very funny and slapstick. So I feel like that would be a good example of the shift in the combination working.
I enjoyed the story arc of the true events that you're delivering for us today. I do think that could be like a campaign in like an open world RPG game. Like you're like a traveler and you stumble upon this small town, and they're like, we need your help because we have to move the whole place overnight before
It's a mission.
the bandits show up.
It's a
I
balancing.
will say, I don't like the ending. I think we need to, like, that's where you got to deviate.
What don't you like on the ending?
Because you're just like, yeah, they're gone.
I want to
it's
know
like,
what
oh,
that
okay.
sign says.
Yeah, I mean, I want to know what
We
the
got to
sign
go
says,
there,
too.
I think.
But
We
yeah,
gotta go
like,
there.
If you know what
See.
the sign says in Old Ulysses,
Please tell
Kansas,
us.
please
Give me a picture of the
write
sign.
it in the comments.
But I didn't really know how else to end it. I figured that they
Yeah.
moved it, and I mean, it would either be that or them in the new town being like, "Isn't this great?"
And the investors show up and they're like, "What the?"
Yeah, I
and
would
then
say-
that's how it ends.
yeah, I was going to say at the
you think
very
they should
end,
show up at the new town?
basically here's how I would end it. At the new town, like, they end up having the same exact problem. And, like, that's how it ends.
This is new
Like,
Ulysses.
they've taken on new debt, like all this stuff.
Well, I did tease that the new
We should
county
move the
seat
town.
was coming.
Yeah, we should move the town
You're
again.
talking about new old Ulysses. This is new Ulysses.
No, this is just Ulysses.
This is St. Ulysses.
Current, past, present.
But yeah, that's how it would just come full circle. Just again, like, oh my god.
Yeah, but the problem is it didn't happen.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
it could.
Well, now it's a place called Appomattox, Kansas.
Why would
you know
they
what I
change
mean?
it?
Because none of it
Potomac.
stuck around. It's 24 years this
Well, I
town
hate
came
it.
and went.
Put in the wrong emphasis.
Dude,
This place went from a field to a thriving town to nothing in 24 years.
Do
It's
they do that
pretty
in the new one?
amazing. What?
Do they do that in the new one?
Well, there's a lot of ghost towns. Or
Well,
pretty
kind of.
cool.
Yeah, there is a
where,
lot of
like,
ghost towns, but to
like
physically
mining
move it-
town or like gold
Yeah.
rush towns.
Yes, and this was based on
But
the
yeah,
trail.
usually
and the
they
trail
just leave
drive
it
out.
all behind. and
Railroads
just
killed the
abandon
trail,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
like everybody left.
Should have seen that coming.
Which I mean, it really happens time and time again with, now it's the auto industry or it's the same thing where an area booms and then it
Yeah.
Right.
dissipates whatever.
Well, for me, like, I'm greenlighting it, but I'm changing your ending. Savage?
I'm yellow lighting it on the
Gross.
on the exception that it's only part of a campaign in a video
I don't
game.
see the video game appeal.
It wouldn't be fun to play through, but it would be like,
Yeah, like, what
I'm
like-
trying to get 100% achievements.
I don't understand. Maybe it'd be a better song. Like what do you mean?
I like it in a play.
Only live actors on a stage.
Yeah, that's the only way I see this working.
R.I.P. Gene.
I think it would work as like a shadow puppet presentation or maybe even a puppet show.
Yeah, marionette. I like
Live
it.
action, no thank you. And the soundtrack has to be a sitar.
I don't even know what the hell that is.
No,
it's like
nobody
an
does.
Indian music.
No one does.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so we will say I was interested in talking about the writing, the based on a true story. But like I said, it's one of those.
I'm
where it's just-
hungrier than a preacher on a Sunday night. Did we do that one?
Check us out on social media.
Doggone it.
You can get us pretty much anywhere, all the major platforms. The links are linktree/WWFT pod. It's in the description. It's on the screen.
He's riding high and shooting low.
He's busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest.
We live stream so people can chime in. And,
Slicker than a house knot.
Or you're talking like a man with a paper butt in a match factory.
Big enough to shade a wagon train.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Play us out, Chucklehead.